Welcome to the Seek First CEO podcast, a community for high-achieving kingdom women committed to seeking God first and keeping God first in all we do. If you believe you're called to impact the world through your gifts, then you're in the right place. Hi, friend. I'm Heather, teacher turned speaker and your host of the Seek First CEO podcast. I'm passionate about helping ambitious, servant-hearted women find their worth in whose they are, not what they do. As a certified master neuroscience life coach, I help you connect the dots between biblical principles and brain science so you can take your thoughts captive and be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I don't do surface, so we go deep here, and we talk about the stuff underneath the surface because I want to help you get to the source of your heart set and mindset roadblocks so you can have breakthrough by aligning your heart and mind with biblical truths. If your heart's desire is to grow in your relationship with Jesus while fearlessly fulfilling your purpose and calling, then let's open up the Word together and see what the Holy Spirit has to say about living your life in flow with Him. Are you ready? Then get excited for today's episode. Hello, sister friend. We are so excited to hang out with you today. I have a special guest who I've had the pleasure of following along their journey on social media. And it was like, this is a divine connection. Let's connect. Let's see what we have to be able to come together, collaborate, and pour into you. So I am so excited to introduce you to my new friend, Kelly. Kelly is a certified director of operations and small business coach. She has just infused faith into business, and she's got a lot of really great skill sets. And we already talked about this before we're probably going to talk heavily about time management because she has such a unique perspective on it. Some things probably you've never heard. And so with all of that, welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to talk to you, pour into your audience, been praying for everybody, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Yes, me too. Okay, so before we kind of get into the juicy stuff, the person who's like, oh, who's this Kelly? Like, I don't know her. Can you kind of give an overview? I know sometimes that feels like such a big question, but take us back to as far as you want to go back and what has caught you up to speed with where you are today.
Sure thing. So I have been married to my very best friend, Keith, for almost 25 years, which is wild. We got married very young. We have 4 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys. My oldest 2 are married. And yes, I started having children very young. And that has just been the wildest journey. We homeschooled them. We moved all of the time in our marriage. So at one point in our marriage, we moved 18 times in 15 years to 5 different states. So Thank goodness for homeschooling. I have had a very odd career, I would say, because of all of the moves. So I really got my start in Mary Kay Cosmetics. That was my first time having my own business and did well with that. And this was, I know this is really going to date me, but that was before the age of Instagram. And so there was like, I would walk around the mall with samples. I mean, when I tell you that I had to be gritty to build that business, there was some grit involved with that. It was, when I look back, I still can't believe that I did that. Got in qualifications for my free car. We found that we were moving to a totally different state. Before social media, you could not take your customers with you. It was a lot more challenging to do things across state lines. So ended up leaving that, became a professional photographer, worked as a virtual assistant, sort of. That was really interesting because I think the small business owners quickly saw things in me that maybe I didn't see for myself. And so they would have me leading meetings or running customer things or big events. And I think people were like, wait, isn't this the assistant? Why is she doing this stuff? So eventually somebody recognized in me, hey, you need to be a project manager. So I did that. And then somebody else recognized in me, you need to be a director of operations. So I got certified in that, worked as a director of operations, which is like a fancy way of saying it's like a COO for smaller businesses. Most smaller businesses don't need a COO, right? So I did that, loved it. And so I just kind of like jumped around supporting small business owners. I like to say I've been supporting small business owners for over 20 years and in all different roles. And my heart is for entrepreneurs. I just have always been really fascinated by them. And so up until June of 2023, I was working as a fractional director of ops, didn't really have a website, because it was all word of mouth, right? Like these were big retainer roles. I didn't really need a website. I didn't even have social media, but I was helping other people build their businesses. And I got this itch and I thought, I'm going to start a faith-based page and I'm going to call it Walk Like Warriors. So my name, and people I'm sure can already tell by my personality, my name means warrior woman. So I'm part Irish, and in Ireland, the name Kelly means warrior woman. So I was like, I really like to play on that. And then Ephesians 6, about putting on the full armor of God and stand firm is said 3 different times all in a row. And so I was just really wanting to equip women in their home, in their family, in their marriage, in their businesses. Well, guess what happened? The DMs I was getting were all about business. And I had this like crisis in August. I wasn't trying to monetize it or anything, but I said to my husband, I almost feel guilty. Like, I wanted this to be a faith-based passion page, and I feel like they're trying to get me to sell them things. And I was very uncomfortable about it. And my husband, who is just one of the wisest people I've ever met, he said, you know what, Kelly, maybe that's just what God's trying to nudge you toward. And so why don't you just go all in on the business, like speaking to business as a believer, and just see what happens. And if you feel like God's blessing it and it's growing, then you'll just know that that was his plan from the beginning. And if not, if it feels like high friction or it doesn't seem to be working, just go all in the other way. But just, don't, because I was trying to straddle both lines, had no intention of monetizing it. And in October of 2023, got my first DM, will you coach me? And I told her no, because I coached my director of ops clients as a regular part of my role, but I had never, it was not even on my map to coach female solopreneurs. Told her no. A week later, somebody else DM'd me, do you do business coaching? Told her no. And so this happened a few times in a row. And then my coach said to me, Kelly, what are you doing? Why would you not do that? And so I said, okay, I'll take 2. And I got those 2. And then in December, I thought maybe I'll take more. So I said I would take up to 10, filled that within a week. Then I realized maybe I should have a group program. And December 31st of 2023, so just a small handful of months, I left my director of ops world, jumped off the cliff before the net appeared. And God has just abundantly and radically blessed it ever since. I can take no credit for what happened. Even now, my Instagram is very small. It's at 800 people and the business is going gangbusters. I can hardly keep up with it. And so on paper, it doesn't make sense what's happened in my world. It just does not make sense. And so it's completely from him. And besides being a wife and mommy, I have never done anything like this that I love this much and feel so fulfilled doing.
Oh, so good. I love it. Oh, you said so many things. I'm like, oh, we could go down so many rabbit holes. Yeah, like your passion project turned into a for-profit. And man, I think believers really wrestle with that, kind of like you did. And I love that you had somebody to champion you and give you peace to say, peace of mind to say, try it. Like the spirit that's inside of us. I think sometimes we are so focused on like, is that my voice or is that God's voice? Right. And that's a good thing to be aware of, right? But where the spirit of the Lord is, there's peace. And so sometimes it's not going to be God coming down and sitting next to you and, or, literally like it's peace, and action brings clarity. And let's talk about this for a second, because you said your social media following's relatively small, right? 800 people, and it doesn't make sense.
Right.
I think somebody needs to hear that, because I even work with women who have like 50,000 followers, and they still think, compared to the people they're looking at 100,000 or 1 million or whatever, it's small and it's not enough. I just love that your business is overflowing with people, provision, with passion. And it's not really about the numbers. It's about you following God's voice.
Absolutely. And I think it gives people hope that you can build a multi-6-figure business with less than 1,000 followers. Like it's just totally wild. And not that everyone needs to be on that journey and have that as a goal for their business, but I think we can get caught up in this trap of what they call vanity metrics, where it's about how many are on the email list, how many Instagram followers, how many YouTube subscribers. And ultimately it's about impact. It is not about the number. And so we can see that through the course of, I think that it's sort of like in Hebrews 11, the great cloud of witnesses, right? In historically, some of those people would have had like a very small numbers wise around them, but made such a huge impact that thousands of years later, we know their name. And so that's what I try to encourage my female solopreneurs, is just to be intentional about the why behind the goal and what we want, because sometimes it truly is about a number instead of about the impact we're making on people's lives. And it can feel like a carrot that's always just out of reach. We get to the first 1,000, then we want to hit 10,000, then we want to hit 100,000. And without giving away, like private information, when I was a director of ops, there are some people with massive followings that can't monetize it. So I also try to encourage my women, the numbers mean nothing. You know what's trendy right now is even the Stan Store screenshots, even the I make 80,000 a month. You have no idea if that is true or not. And I've seen enough people with 1 million followers who can't sell t-shirts to know that as long as you've built a community, that's what really matters. And that's how we can really have the business, the life, and the impact that we want to have in this world, is just thinking about it more as building a tight-knit community. There's some strategy behind that, of course. I mean, I'm a director of ops after all, so I do bring the strategy thread into it. But I think that there's so many women desperate to grow their business, and the people speaking into their life are like these Instagram coaches that are trying to get them to go viral or grow. And then when I get inside their business, they have so many missing foundational pieces that I'm like, if you would just clean up these things and tighten up these things, you wouldn't have to worry about growing any more than you're already at. You have the numbers, you just don't have the systems.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. Yes. And I love that, because I equally, that's not to shame someone with a huge following, but there are many people who have large followings and they don't have the profit. And they're struggling. And so let's talk about some of those things to tighten up, because that is good. So what are the most basic common things that you see the entrepreneur who has this dream, has this idea, like feels like God's given her this thing, but there are some foundational things. What are the most common things to tighten up in your business?
So for sure, the time management, but that is a whole conversation. We could talk, you and me, an hour just about that. So I'm going to hit the pause button on that, because I feel like we'll circle back to that. But the other things, the biggest thing, Heather, honestly, is the thing that I see missing most often, and that is customer obsession. So that's a core value of Walk Like Warriors. And I totally stole it from Amazon. Like, that's a core value of Amazon, right? If you say Porch Pirate stole the Christmas package, they're not like, well, Heather, you need to show us camera footage. Okay, we're sending you a new one right now. And so for me, that ties in a lot with our faith, right? We're supposed to love God and love people, and we are supposed to love people like God loves them. So for me, it's not numbers on an assembly line, which is how I feel like a lot of people view their subscribers, their followers. It's like an invisible number, which is like grains of sand on the beach. And I'm like, this is every follower of Walk Like Warriors is a woman. There's a flesh and blood human who's probably a wife and a mommy and a real life person. And so for me personally, and I see this a lot with network marketing, it's all about how to grow, how to hand out samples, how to get people to talk to people for you. No, if you take amazing care of the customers you have, the natural byproduct is word of mouth referrals, is tags on social, is people. So I say you want to create super fans, ambassadors, or to steal a word from the Bible, like disciples of your brand. And so what do we women do? Someone sitting around, she's with her group of girlfriends, and someone's like, you know what? I really am struggling with some mindset issues around money. Heather, if you're doing an amazing job, you know your name is the one coming up. Oh my goodness. You need to get into her atmosphere. You need to start following. And so it doesn't matter if you are selling makeup or fitness or supplements or anything. When your customers feel like you love them and value them in a profound level, it goes from, and I teach this a lot in my group program, customer service to customer obsession. And I can, like, if it would be helpful, I can give 7 or 8 specific examples of how that plays out. But the thing is that one happy person can refer 7 people to you. And it's like a mushroom cloud. It's like nuclear fallout. Like, it just keeps going and going and going, right? And so for me, I had one person who referred other people who referred other people. In the last 3 months, I can trace $12,000 back to that one person. Yes. And all I do is love on her. And so to me, the most foundational thing is every part of the customer journey. Do you onboard them well? When they're with you, are you nurturing them and loving on them? And then do you offboard them well? That's the part I see missing a lot of times. It's like when someone leaves a program or stops buying from us, we just disown them. Like, we just cut them off like they don't exist anymore. And so when we do the parts of the customer journey well, that's the best way to demonstrate customer obsession. That's what leads to the referrals. And when your business runs that way, it feels so much easier and lighter because you're not having to so aggressively go out and try to fill your pipeline, number one. But number two is, kingdom entrepreneurs, that's in alignment with the way that our heart cries, is to want to love people. And so that's why I think so often Christian women want to do that, but no one's really talked to them enough about customer obsession. And so it becomes this thing of wanting to like make reels and, it's always like cold leads, cold leads, cold leads. And I'm like, you've got hot leads right in your pipeline. Like if you will take care of them. And often in the Success Squad, which is my group program, the women, it's like the scales fall from their eyes and they say, I never thought that thought before. So that is part of it. And then just making sure, I can't tell you often, people have broken links on their website. They have a form that goes nowhere. You get this thing and there's nothing that happens after that. So they have a lot of dead ends in their business. And so those are two really major things. But again, I know what your women are thinking. This is so common. But Kelly, I have no time. Like that sounds great, but how do I even do this? I'm already so busy. I'm wearing a million hats. I don't know how to actually get these things to happen. And so that's where I think a lot of it falls back on, if your time isn't right, your business won't be right.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, that's me, the broken links. Don't go to my website. The Lord pivots me all the time, so much. So I invest in the website. I invest in the copywriter. I invest my time. And then literally it's like 6 months later, he's like, we're going to do something else. I'm like, okay, I'm at the point and I'm like, I'm so done with the website, but it is true. And I love the people who message me the screenshot and like, hey, this is broken. It's so kind of you. Thank you. Okay. Customer obsession. I love that over customer service. And that could be a whole podcast episode in and of itself that I think is super juicy. But because I know for a lot of the women I work with, so we talk about your belief system and the core 6 belief systems that I see impacting entrepreneurs the most, which is money, time, success, failure, your beliefs about yourself, and your beliefs about God. And they all intertwine. Like you can't really silo. I mean, yes, there's like money mindset coach, but in reality, once you start to dig into that, time has to do with that, right? When you have time, well, money has to do with that. I mean, it all is intertwined, but I think, oh man, I think the customer obsession is really great. The offboarding intrigues me too. I know that is an area that I think I see in a lot of people, as well as that's kind of a like, okay, how are we ending this thing? Are we ending this thing? Or are we going into that? Could be cool. I don't know. I'm going to let you pick because you were just like offboarding. We could go a little deeper into the customer obsession, or let's just dive into time management because it is really important. I'm intrigued the fact that you're a homeschooling mom too, that you understand that. We're actually starting homeschooling in the next school year. I'm a certified teacher. That's what I went to school for. And we homeschooled in 2021 when the world had gone mad. But now I'll have all 3. So like, if I'm going to be selfish, I'm like, let's talk about time management for the homeschooling entrepreneur. But I do want to meet, I don't know. We could go in lots of different directions. And this does not have to be our last conversation.
Oh, I love that. I would be so honored if I ever got to come back on and talk to you and your sisterhood that you've created. So yeah, let's jump into time, because if I talk about customer obsession, but someone's time isn't right, they're going to just struggle. What it does is it adds layers of guilt instead of them feeling empowered. And that's not what I want. And so I got to just back up and just say, I am a mutt. Okay. So I was raised to be very type A. I was raised by everything you do, you're working for the Lord, you do everything with absolute excellence. So in corporate, I was able to climb the ladder quickly because a project's not done. I'll come in on Saturday and Sunday. That led to a lot of workaholism, which led to burnout. And so in my corporate world, one of my fractional director of ops clients, he said, you are like, your brain is bipolar. And what he meant was when I'm working, I am type A. It's almost scary, like how organized I am. In my personal life, my phone is in the refrigerator. My keys are probably in the microwave. I cannot find anything. I miss appointments. I've had girlfriends call and be like, are you coming to dinner? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. So I know some people don't like the label, but however you want to label it, just for categorizing my brain, it's like ADHD brain. So I have in my personal life, everything's messy and chaotic or whatever. And so when I pivoted into entrepreneurhood, I was floundering because the time management systems that are out there were designed in the 40s and 50s for corporate America. They were designed by men, typically for men. And so a lot of people, I did not coin this, so I don't know who to give credit to, but it's an old principle. of spaghetti and waffles. So women have spaghetti brain, men have waffle brain. And what do I mean by that is when your husband is sitting down to do the budget, he is doing the budget. He does not hear the dog barking. He does not hear the child crying. He is doing the budget. When he is cutting the grass, he is cutting the grass. This is how a woman does the budget. Oh my goodness, I forgot to pick up that Target order. She leaves the house, she comes back. Oh my goodness, the cat just threw up on the rug. The school is calling. Oh my goodness, my sister's birthday is tomorrow. I have to go do that. Oh, you know what? I got to turn the laundry over. So men's brain is waffle brain. It's in a bucket. They can do the one thing when they're supposed to do it. Our brains are spaghetti brain. Everything is tangled up. It's like spaghetti that's been cooked. So it's all tangled up. And so what we try to do is we women spaghetti brains, we try to use these waffle brain time management systems. Then we beat ourselves up because it might work for a day, usually not even a couple hours. And then we're back to our old things and we don't understand why it won't work for us. So we tell ourselves this story, like what you're saying, it's like our mindset around time. We tell ourselves we can't do it, that something's wrong with us, or we're just never meant to be able to be organized, or we're not going to ever be able to get a handle on our schedule. And then when we become entrepreneurs, on top of being wives and mommies, it is like someone is in the ocean drowning and we decide to have them like hold a backpack of bricks. So it becomes so unmanageable that the wheels start to come off. And I like that framework because number one is I want women to understand that there's nothing wrong with them. Our spaghetti brain, I say, is our superpower and it's our kryptonite. We have to handle it with care, like a stick of dynamite. So it's beautiful because if I'm sitting with you and I saw on Instagram yesterday that you were at the pool with your kids, I will ask about it. A man isn't like that. It's buckets. He's doing the podcast with Heather. So he's only thinking about the podcast with Heather. As women, it's so beautiful how the Lord designed us. Everything is integrated, but that can really be our downfall. And so what happens is we might be crushing it in our business, but our marriage is suffering. Our marriage is good and our business is good, but we keep yelling at the kids to be quiet because mommy's trying to work. Or we have tons of mom guilt. We fall into bed at night and we think to ourselves, I did not spend intentional time with my kids today. And this is also just a weapon of the enemy. Is guilt is something that most men don't struggle with guilt, and women are plagued by guilt all day, every day. So I got into entrepreneurship and I tried all the systems that worked in corporate and, time blocking and using this planner and doing these things. And I was like, this is not working. It's not working. And most of us are working from home, which is a big part of the quote unquote problem. It's not really a problem. But so what I started to realize was those systems weren't going to work. And then as I started coaching, those systems were not working for the women. And as part of the way that I approach business as a director of ops, and I'll try to make this as concise as possible, but essentially, if I was going to go into a multi-million-dollar business where they had some broken things or they were running an event and nothing was right and they didn't know what was wrong, is it the people, is it the process? I would meet with the CEO and go through like 6 buckets inside of a business. One is the people, the leader, the team. I ask a series of questions like, are you training your team? Do you have SOPs for your team? Do you have training manuals? You as the leader, like, are you in a coaching program of some kind? Are you developing your skill set? So that's one of the 6 buckets. A second bucket is customers. We talked about customer obsession. There's a lot that goes in that. So I just poke some holes and just ask some questions about what's happening. Sales and marketing is another bucket. How are you marketing yourself? So we go through these and I can say the other 3 if it's of interest. But what I started to realize was women, the biggest problem for us is we treat every task the same. Maybe not on paper, but we would view cleaning up our websites the same level of being in the DMs, same importance. So when we sit down to work, we ping pong between activities all day long, which number 1 makes everything take way longer. And number 2, it makes us feel like we're working all the time because we're making dinner and then we run to our laptop because we're like, oh my goodness, I didn't send out that proposal unless I was going to do it. So we're never fully present anywhere because we don't categorize things as well as men. So I thought, what if I could design a system where it helps us have more of a waffle brain with our business, but that allows for us to, be our free selves that we like and kind of be more free flowing. So essentially what I do with my time management system is we go through your business with the 6 buckets. And then instead of batching tasks, we batch days. And so my system, I'll quickly run through it. And if someone cannot afford a business coach, I literally do this for free in Instagram stories every day. Every Monday, I get an Instagram stories. Monday's admin day. So this is when we get to inbox 0, we file our receipts, we're prepping for taxes. I walk people through. And so I hope that this is making sense. And so what I do is we dump out all of the tasks and then we put them into the buckets of Monday through Friday. On Monday, we're putting the admin tasks on our admin day Monday. On Tuesday, if you're someone who has interviews or meetings, Tuesday is meeting day or content creation day. Wednesday is our day where we're doing sales and marketing heavy focus. Thursday is our project day or deep work day in our business. And Friday is our CEO strategy day. Now, when I say day, it doesn't mean we're doing it for 8 hours. My side hustlers, those sweet sisters are doing this just for 30 minutes. But the power of this system is one, psychology. It's like a spreadsheet and there's a drop down, and seeing those colors change from red to green, from not done to done is very powerful. Number 2 is mommies. We keep getting interrupted. We can't remember where we left off. We waste so much time playing whack-a-mole with our to-do list. So we're working on our newsletter. No, wait, we're answering the DM. No, wait, we're sending out that proposal. No, wait, we're hopping onto a Zoom meeting. And so that ping-ponging is so wasteful of time, but it also is so taxing on our brains. And so when women have started to use this system, they're going from working, I'm working all the time. I'm working 30, 40, 50 hours a week to I'm done at noon. And for the women with preschoolers or the side hustlers, they're telling me the feedback is that they're working about half as much, but their business is healthier than it's ever been because, like I said, those 6 buckets are all being taken care of. So when we're too free flowing, women neglect that sales and marketing piece. Their leads run dry. And their first thing is, this isn't meant to be, I'm quitting my business. So this weekly recurring rhythm to our weeks is really powerful. Once you do that bucket, most women, it's 30 to 60 minutes. You can do whatever you want the rest of the day, but you feel empowered because a director of ops has helped you understand if you just do this on Mondays and just do this on Tuesdays and even if it's just for 1 hour, your business holistically is healthy. And so it's a little bit about the way that I teach time. And so the byproduct of it is I had somebody who just went through the system. She was working, she's a party planner, so she has to work weekends. And then Saturday, I will say part of the system is Saturday is savor. We slow down and we savor. We make eye contact and flirt with our husbands. We have a picnic with the kids. We go out for coffee with our mom. I always say this on Saturdays. What are we working so hard for if it's not to savor our lives? And then Sunday is Sabbath. The only thing that healed me from my workaholism was taking a day of complete rest, turning off my brain, shutting down the engines. And lo and behold, that beautiful pattern means when I come into Monday, the ideas are flowing. They're pouring out of me. People will say, how do you come up with all this stuff? Because I learned that my brain and body have to rest for God to be able to see that there's humility in practicing the Sabbath. That doesn't mean I'm not using the microwave. Like, people get so weird about it. It's not like that. It's just like, he rested, we should rest. Just like, why would we not do what the God who created us did? He did it as an example for us. But when we do this flow of our week, the most crazy thing happens. Our relationships are good. Our business is good. So this party planner, she was working 12 hours every Monday very consistently. She has it down to 4 hours on Mondays. Like, she has 8 hours back just in one day of the week. A different woman who did it, she started painting again for the first time since college, because part of my system is we need to go back to our roots of what lights us up outside of our business, what lights us up, and fold that into our weeks as well. But she just said the craziest thing is she's like tripled her number of coaching clients. But she said, I have never felt so, I'm getting emotional. She said, I have never felt so present as a mom. I've always felt like my brain was divided. I'd be with my kids and trying to concentrate on them, but I just kept thinking about my business when I was with them. And she said the biggest gift was to finally be able to have the bucket when she's with her family and nothing else matters. And then when she's working, she knows exactly what to do and when. So it's just been, I'm getting emotional just because, like, my heart's cry is that's what I want for women, is I want them to have the business that they want, but not sacrifice their personal life to get it.
Yes. And that's why your message resonates so much with me, right? Because it's like, we know we're made for more. We know God has good stuff for us. And it's this whole abundant life that we read about, but it's like, my life doesn't feel abundant. I love that you talked about maybe in one area of your life it's thriving, but the other area is totally suffering. And so how do we really figure out how, right? It's like, can we have it all? And I think that's the question. Can we really have it all? We believe it. We see someone who maybe looks like they have it all. Can we have it all? And I will tell you, yeah, the Lord has just similarly with rest and Sabbath. Rest was a 4-letter word to me. That was like a swear word. We don't say that word. Lazy
Yeah.
people rest. Besides, we don't have time for that. And if you're really driven and ambitious, right? The workaholism, that was my life. And yeah, we literally need rest to restore us. And I love that that's part of it. The savor. Do you find, because this has been my own journey, gosh, my like first Christian business coach asked me, what do you do for fun? My response literally, Kelly, was, I build businesses. And she's like, no, like, what do you do for fun? And I was like, no, really, business is fun to me. And that was my answer. And that question haunted me for years because I knew that's not the that was not the right answer. And meanwhile, though, I will say I've turned a lot of passion projects into businesses only to realize that God gave me those passions because it's a passion and I didn't need to make a profit from it.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the flip, right? He's like, you thought it was a passion project. And he's like, yeah, you can actually make a profit, which I think is why is so important, again, to have a personal relationship with the Lord and you are following the spirit that's living inside of you. Jesus in you, right? Christ in me. Because I thought everything that I loved could just turn into a business opportunity. So that was fun for me. And it was 2 years ago, God, the word fun was a huge piece too. He just said, I want you to have fun. I want you to have fun this summer. And I was like, okay, what would it was a summer of fun and play. That was kind of the theme of my summer. What would a summer of fun and play look like? So I started painting. I started doing things. I started playing more with my kids, and being present. But do you find that a lot of the women that you work with really struggle with those hobbies, really struggle with the fun stuff? Is that a common?
100%. Yes. And the number one thing I hear is, I don't know.
I
I
don't.
don't know what I love to do. Like they will tell me, if you gave me, and now most women would never have 8 hours of empty space on their calendar on a Saturday. But if I press them, they will say, I don't know what I would do. Because my inclination is to catch up on emails or to get all the laundry done or to do a spring cleaning on my house. I don't know. And so there's some exploring that has to be done there. And even it changes in seasons, right? But a lot of times I'll say, well, when you were in high school or college, what did you do? Because that's usually when we were the most free, even though we probably told ourselves the story, we were the most stressed out, we were the most free. And so a lot of times, especially in college, where our hobbies and passions kind of bubble to the surface. And you're right, Heather, that's why I struggled with Walk Like Warriors, because my whole life, you strike me as somebody similar to me. It's like people will say everything you touch turns to gold. So everything, it's like monetize it, grow it, scale it, and so that was why I struggled with that page, because I was like, no, I can't do that. This is not supposed to be that. Like God had to do a work in my heart. And it was like, yes, this is actually exactly what it's supposed to be. But just sort of learning that. And I will tell you, some of your listeners obviously have really little kids at home. And I would tell them and really encourage them to still find a passion, even if it's something for 30 minutes a week, no matter how silly. It could be adult coloring books. This does not have to be some like fancy, you're going to go take sculpting lessons or something. It could be something like martial arts. It could be running. It could be, there's a million things it could be, right? But I would say, can't have everything all the time. And so when I was in the season with lots of little ones at home, Keith and I really did, the majority of our time was with our kids. And if I could just, I feel like burdened to just say this. I think it's important to share this with those women in that stage. You will not regret the hidden time that you spend with your kids. And I can say that because it is very hard to be driven like you and I are, but then also know that we pouring into them is our most important calling in ministry. And my oldest two are married. Why am I emotional today? I know I'm a very passionate person, but we all happened to have a day where we all were at the house, and not all of them live near me. So they had said, we should have a staycation here. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you guys are going to take time off? And they said, yes. And I said, well, where are we going to go? And they said, no, we want to have a staycation at the house, Mom. We want to have a staycation with you and Dad. And that moment crystallized for me that even though it was really hard at times, and, I was aware that if I didn't have kids and could have been all in at corporate, my life would have been different. Wildly, on the surface, maybe something that the world would have said wildly more successful, but in my heart, wildly empty. And so for those who are in that stage with kids, like I'd say under, grade school or junior high level, that secret time, that hidden time, the time no one sees or honors, the laying on your stomachs on the floor, putting together puzzles or playing Barbies, that led to my adult kids taking vacations from their jobs, their careers, to stay with us for 4 days and play board games and video games. Like, to me, I don't even have words for God's giving me that gift. It's very meaningful to me. And to me, that is the marker of success as parents, that your kids, there is no shortcut to relationships like that. I'm not saying we were perfect parents, because far from it. But what I would say is that as your kids get older, maybe you need new passions. And so I'm at a little bit of a different life stage where half of my kids have left the house. And I said to my husband, I don't know, like, my previous passions don't really light me up anymore. So I don't know if I want to go get my black belt in Taekwondo. I don't know if I want to enroll in a marathon. I don't know if I want to revisit my love for photography, but I'm like, I'm going to need something now, because I don't want to, like, binging Netflix. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, for me, that is not a passion. And so I think sometimes as women, we have to understand seasons call for different passions and hobbies, but we need something. And career building, I really love this husband-wife team who are building $1 billion portfolio company, but they say for fun, that is their fun. And I'm like, that you're not a holistic, well-rounded human being. That isn't
who you're talking about. I follow them and I love them too. And they're so driven. I don't know about you, but I love, again, we resonate so much because I know you talked about working so much that you realized you hadn't even really seen your kids in weeks. And it was like, oh my gosh. And so sometimes I think we build our business for our kids in the name of, right, I'm building a legacy. I want to teach them. I want to give them the life that they want to be able to sign up for the sports and whatnot. But my kids were in activities and I wasn't going. My husband was the one taking them because I was the one working. So it was like that presence, right? I was physically present, emotionally absent. And I didn't realize that I grew up in a home like that, though, where I had a parent that was very physically like there. Well, not always, like he was a workaholic, right? And not to shame, but it was like, oh, that was what I'd seen. And that was the providing for. And I learned the very hard way once I lost everything in 2018 that my kids could not care less about what titles I have, what trophies I have, what they don't know our bank account, right? They want me. And that was really hard for me to carve out. And I had a coach one time, she was like, can you set a timer for 15 minutes with each kid? And even the thought of 15 minutes with each kid sounded so shameful, because I was like, how is it hard for me as a mom who loves her kids dearly, right? I would do anything for my kids, except this feels really hard. It feels so hard because the brain, you talk about the spaghetti and the waffle. I love that. But to me, it's the tabs open in my brain. I always make a joke that, like, I've got the, 20 to 50 tabs open in my computer, but literally that's also my brain. And so sometimes slowing down feels really scary to the person's nervous system that is in overdrive, right? Where we just are constantly in fight mode. We are constantly doing and doing and doing that downtime actually feels unsafe. And so I just think that you nailed it on the head, that what a compliment that your kids actually want to spend time with you and are willing to take off time and just hang out. I mean, that is such a testament to the culture that you have created and the balance. I hate that word, the B word. I think it's a B word. I'm like, oh, there's no such thing as balance. I call it harmony. Like, there's harmony that you were able to kill it in the corporate world and maybe learn some lessons along the way, right? Maybe some of that was like, but then here it's like, oh, these rhythms. I love that you said weekly recurring rhythms, because we don't neglect any one thing when we have these rhythms, right? And so it's so good. Oh my gosh, Kelly. Okay. There, again, we could have so many of these conversations. I just love everything that you are about. I would love to ask one last kind of thing, because again, we could keep going, and I want to make sure everyone has your social media, all the places that they can find you. What is for the woman who feels strapped for time, like it is just like they live with the thought, I don't have enough time to do everything that I want to do, right? And so what is your encouragement to her as she's heard all of I love the daily, like, okay, all of that. It is such a different approach. What would you say to her that even after hearing this, she's still like, that sounds good for you, Kelly, but what about me? Like, how can I like really start to apply this? And is this actually going to work? But she just feels like she doesn't have enough time. So one of my declarations that I've said years ago was, I have more than enough time to do everything the Lord is calling me to do today. And what is on my list that is not meant to be there, that I put there for whatever reason, and, you know, all of the things. So just maybe encourage her for a minute, because I know I still wrestle with this too, right? I haven't like mastered this in a sense, because I think life changes all the time. So I would just love for you to give her an encouraging word, something.
Yes. So Psalm 90:12 says, so teach us to number our days so that we will have a heart of wisdom. And this is going to crack up anybody listening, because you're like, encourage her. And now I'm going to be morbid, but we're not going to live forever. And we have to determine the big rocks of our lives. We have to determine who and what are going to bring us comfort whenever the last day of our life is. And we have to understand our life is short. All throughout Psalms, it talks about our life being a vapor. You know, you wake up in the morning sipping your coffee and there's fog in the backyard. By the time you're done with that cup of coffee, that fog is gone. That's our life. And now I know people are like, what kind of coach is this? This is really sad. But you will never regret time spent with the Lord. And so designing your life around that time, and I am not going to give a number of minutes because it doesn't matter, but he is our well, like he is our living water. And so no life is going to feel right. You can pack out your day and be as efficient and productive as you want. If you do not have that time with him, it's all going to feel somewhat empty. And so encouragement number one is that secret hidden time is the best time. It's where he speaks into us. That's where we find our value, because our value is always rooted in him, and it helps us rip apart at the seams. I don't know about you, Heather, but for me, my workaholism was I am what I produce. So the more productive I am, the more output, the more valuable Kelly is. And God says, no, I don't need anything from you, and there is nothing that you can give me. And so that time with him is the most, I can't put it into words. I even got in my back against the wall this year in 2024 when we're recording this. I was starting to take coaching clients at 8 and 9 in the mornings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I thought, no, unhurried time with him is the number one priority of my life. Mm-hmm. So just encouraging her that has to be right for the whole body, soul, and mind to be right. Second is he's not a God of chaos or disorder. He's a God of order. So if your life feels chaotic or disorderly, that is not coming from him. And you can ask him. I love that James talks about ask him for wisdom. He always says yes. That's like crazy. He always says yes. So God, what am I doing that I'm not supposed to be doing? Because you don't want me to not be a present wife and mom. You don't want me to not spend time with you. So what's happening here? Help me. Give me the wisdom to number my days. I want to know what I'm not supposed to be doing, right? And he'll reveal the why. I think some of us, we hyper enroll our kids in things, then we complain that we're so busy. Why are we enrolling them in those things? Mm-hmm. Is it guilt because of how much we work, so they have something to do? Is it FOMO? Is it the pressure of, I don't want them to get behind in T-ball? I mean, it gets a little ridiculous where I think a lot of the decisions we make are for outside reasons that we don't always peel back the layers and evaluate. And then I would say, you know what, contrary to what we were told growing up, we cannot have it all. A yes to one thing has to be a no to 30 things. And I think we quite often say yes and yes and yes and yes. And then our days are packed out. And that intentionality is really hard. But if we ask him to help us with that, he really and truly will. But you know what? If you're in a season of diapers and bottles, this is not the season probably for empire building. It's like, know the season that you're in and know what he's calling you to do in that season. I have a love-hate relationship with social media for women, because there's people like you, Heather, that people following you are the better for it. The other side of that coin is that I think a lot of times we look at other people on social media and we want what they have instead of honoring the season that we are in. We don't know if she's got 2 nannies and 2 housekeepers and meal delivery. We don't know. Her marriage could be falling apart, but her business is sure great. So we want what she has without really realizing what's happening. And so I would say, just from a practical standpoint, is really, I tell my kids, if you wouldn't invite them into your family room or bedroom, you should not be following them on social media. So unfollow people who make you feel bad about yourself. Follow people like Heather. Lean into that godly teaching that makes you feel good about the season that you're in. And try, sweet mom, try to beat that guilt, because that is not from the Lord. So spend time with him. Prioritize your marriage and kids, because truly at the end of our lives, that is all that matters. You can be replaced. I don't even care if you're the world's best entrepreneur. There's somebody coming up right behind you who will take your place if you fall. So that doesn't matter. Do what you're called to do. Stay in the season that you're in and work as hard as you can to be fully present in your relationships with the Lord and also with the people close to you. Because as you know, as I get older and I look back, those were the best moments of my life, is when I was choosing what God was wanting me to choose and not choosing what Kelly, Walk Like Warriors Kelly, was wanting to choose, but really trying to align my heart with his heart.
So much wisdom, so much goodness. Kelly, we're going to leave all of your links below so they can connect with you on social, your website, all the things, with no broken links, because you know what you're doing. Thank you. Thank you for pouring into us today. I am just looking forward to our next conversation.
Thank you. Me too.
Thank you so much for listening to the Seek First CEO podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, can you do a sister a solid? Subscribe to the show so that you never miss an episode, and leave a review so that other Kingdom entrepreneurs can find the soul-changing content that we share here. Thank you for being part of this community and for tuning in each week.